Hello, welcome to this podcast. This is a podcast about Elvis Presley, not Elvis Costello, if you were confused. My name is Billy, and this guy, who are you?
Hello, I'm Daniel.
You're Daniel, and you know more about Elvis than me.
Wow.
So I'll be asking you lots of dumb questions, and hopefully you'll know the answers.
Excellent.
We are going to talk about Elvis. We are going to talk about the albums, the studio albums, the live albums. We might even get to the movies.
Sounds great. So
I've done a few podcasts before, but you haven't. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, that is why I'm being so hesitant. This is definitely the first time ever doing a podcast.
And I'm Australian, and you're American. So it's going to be some different points of view, and there's going to be things that I will have no idea about, like literally half the things he says in Poke Salad Annie. I don't know most of those words. Right. So it'll be interesting you explaining that to me.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've played Poke Salad Annie. And with those concerts,
it's such a good song.
There's so many versions of it. That's the thing with the Elvis concerts. It's like, Jesus, there's just every tour is so well documented.
And soundboard, so many soundboard recordings. And amazingly, even the audience recordings, on the most part, are generally listenable.
Oh, yeah,
which
I've heard
for like
great
tape recordings from like the 70s, that blows my mind that some of them sound as good as they do. For people just sitting at a table with a big tape recorder and a microphone. I'm amazed how good some of those sound.
Well, I'm shocked at all the 8mm concert footage that keeps popping up on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
Like 1969 and stuff. Yeah, I mean, the size of the cameras back then, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, exactly. and people just said, oh, yeah, of course you can take that in. Imagine trying to do that today.
Yeah, it was total free-for-all back then as far as cameras and recording devices went.
Some concerts now, they don't even let you take in like an SLR camera. No, that's professional equipment. You can't bring that in.
Yeah. The first concert I ever went to was Prince for the Purple Rain tour. And I had tried to sneak a little micro cassette recorder in. And as soon as we got to the door and I saw that there were metal detectors, I had to throw it in the trash, which really sucked.
That was how much was that? Money.
God. It was 1985, so could have been more than it is now, probably. It had to be $50 or so. But anyway,
it would just go back and put it in the car or something? Oh.
No, we were dropped off. It was like high school for me. So I got dropped off there with 3 other guys, and they were like, if you get us kicked out of this concert for sneaking a tape recorder in there, we'll, never forgive you. So no, I had to trash it. And I looked in the trash can after the concert, and it was long gone. So...
Long gone. The security guard probably saw you put it there and he took it.
The only good thing about it is I can't imagine how horrible the sound quality would have been recording Prince in the Superdome in New Orleans, a huge cavernous thing, with a micro cassette recorder from the cheap seats, which is where I was. So it would have been unlistenable anyway.
Probably wouldn't have been great.
No, it definitely wouldn't have been.
So let's talk about, before we go any further, we're not going to be reviewing anything this first show. This is just the introduction.
Right.
We'll talk about stuff, how we got into Elvis. There, let's start there.
Yeah, why don't you start? So when did you first get into or discover or become aware of Elvis?
Good question. The first time now that I can remember being aware of Elvis was really late. I mean, of course, when I was a kid, you probably saw Jailhouse Rock or whatever on TV because that stuff was just always on TV.
Right.
But the first time I remember listening to Elvis, consciously, I got a CD or I listened to it, on purpose. Mm-hmm. It was probably in the early 90s.
Oh.
So very late, I know. But since then, I've listened to a lot.
Yeah. Well, you're also, I'm pretty sure you're younger than me.
I am 43. 42? 43. I can't remember.
Yeah. Wow, I'm almost exactly 10 years older, which...
Oh, there you go. So you're gonna school me.
Well, no. I mean, Elvis, I didn't know who Elvis was until he died. And then I was 8 years old. So, yeah, when he died, all of a sudden we only had 3 channels because it was before... everything.
Before cable and everything. Yeah.
So I remember all of a sudden Elvis was on TV and it was Elvis Week. And because I was an 8-year-old, a movie like, Spin Out or Speedway or Clam Bake, they actually seemed cool. I mean, they're terrible. They're mostly terrible, but But see, I grew up in New Orleans.
You just lost half our audience right there. You called the movies terrible.
Well,
or maybe they agree. I don't know.
Anybody who's halfway objective realizes that most of Elvis's movies were not good. Some of them really were, but most of them just weren't, and neither were the soundtracks, unfortunately. But to a child, they're like the perfect introduction to Elvis because they're so juvenile and they're so mindless.
Yeah,
and when
he seems cool.
Yeah,
he's a cool guy.
Well, see, when he died, TV shows, at least in the United States, like Happy Days was probably the biggest show on TV. And Happy Days had a character that was more or less like your TV Elvis, the Fonz.
Fonzie.
Right. And so...
Arthur Fonzarelli.
That is the man. Henry Winkler. Cool guy.
Henry Winkler, the man who loves fly fishing. That's what I know about him.
Oh, really? I know him because he's in this show called Barry right now, which is a great show.
Oh, yes, he's the teacher of the acting class, isn't he? Yep.
Yeah, and he just seems like a cool guy.
I started watching that show and I think I've got through most of the first season and then I just forgot about it, so I've got to get back to that.
Yeah, I don't know what's...
Anyway, this is not the Barry podcast or the Henry Winkler podcast.
Right. Well, yeah, when I first heard Elvis, I had seen a lot of imitations of Elvis and didn't realize it. So I was seeing the Fonz on TV, and I was hearing a lot of... My dad played a lot of 50s music, but oddly enough, almost no Elvis. Like, he doesn't have a single Elvis album in his collection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's got a lot of records, but no Elvis. But no, hearing Elvis for the first time, it was just like, oh, this is the dude all these other people have been imitating. So it was just like a real... I got super obsessed with Elvis from the time he died in like 1977 until probably around 83 or 84. And I exclusively listened to Elvis during that time. Like, I was weird about it. I was like, no, I don't want to hear what's on the radio. I'm listening to Elvis. I was just weirdly snobby about it. And then
No, that's fine. That's fine. You know what you like.
Yeah.
Easy.
And it was in high school I heard Prince. And then it was like, this guy's also good. And
this is my next obsession.
Yeah, well,
I think I'm going to collect everything.
Yeah, he reminded me a lot of Elvis in a lot of ways, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's a lot of
deeply obsessed for a while.
Bits and pieces here and there. If you've watched a lot of Elvis and you've watched a lot of Prince, there's a few things here and there which Prince borrowed things from a lot of people, including Elvis.
Well, I loved
and you can see just little bits here and there. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I love the Joni Mitchell quote about Prince because I think it applies to Elvis as well, where she said he was a great hybrid who just sort of combined everything around him.
Everything that came before. Yeah.
And that's how all art works. That's why it's always so weird when people talk about cultural appropriation and that kind of thing, because, all artists stand on the shoulders of previous artists.
I'm sure that's going to be a whole show at some point because it's you can't get around that if you're talking about Elvis.
Right. But yeah, I basically got into him right when he died. Never heard of him prior to his death. But again, I was an 8-year-old, so I wouldn't have, I wasn't into much Star Wars.
Yeah. 77.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Fun fact.
What?
I don't know if it's fun. I actually worked out the time difference and everything. I was born on the 27th of June, 1977. And I worked out the time difference. I was born at the exact same when Elvis was on stage for that last show in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I was born.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which blows my mind. Like, I actually went back and I figured out the time difference and I'm like, wow, that's something.
Yeah. Oh, I should do that.
And I did that a long time ago.
Well, I was born in October of 68. I should go back and see if Elvis was doing the comeback special or something.
Doing the comeback special?
That would be great.
Yeah, when was that?
68, but I don't know exactly when it was recorded. I think it was December. But no, he was probably on the set of a movie called Stay Away Joe when I was born, which is...
See, you know way more than I do.
One of my least favorite Elvis movies.
Stay Away Joe.
Great music.
Sounds
some
good.
really cool songs, but also a terrible song called Dominic that Elvis has to sing. He has to sing a song to convince a bull to mate with some cows. I swear to God.
I can't wait till we get to that one.
It was unreleased until after he died for obvious reasons, but it's in the movie. Yeah. He's serenading a bull.
See, that sort of image sort of generally sums up the movies for me.
Yeah.
Just like Elvis, singing, remember when he sang to the dog on the Ed Sullivan Show, and just ridiculous things that happen. It's just, there's so many comical things like that.
Yeah.
When you look back and you're just like, oh man, is it embarrassing or is it just
Right.
cheesy? I don't know. It's funny.
By the way, if I don't correct you, if anyone is actually listening to this, they will. It was the Steve Allen show that he had to sing to the dog on Ed's.
There we go.
On Ed Sullivan, toward the end, they filmed him only from the waist up.
Oh, that was when he couldn't shake his legs.
Right.
Yeah.
It contributed to juvenile delinquency somehow.
Obviously.
Yeah.
The evils of rock music. Obviously, it's corrupting their tiny brains.
It's the devil's music.
Oh, there's so much. There's going to be so much to talk about. It's crazy.
Yeah, we haven't even really decided what
Wow.
to cover on the first show.
No, we'll have to think about that.
Maybe if anybody's listening,
If anyone out there, if anyone's listening to this first episode and you've got a suggestion for a studio album, a live album, let us know, because we haven't decided yet.
right.
Let us know.
So, do you have any personal favorite Elvis albums, like full albums that you consider like favorites?
I do, for some reason, like the very last few studio releases.
Yeah,
Like the one with like tapes from the
Yeah.
Jungle Room and stuff, and way down and stuff like that.
Cool.
For some reason, I don't know why. Like all Elvis is good, but for some reason, I'm sort of drawn to like that 75 to 77 era, and I'm
Wow.
not sure why.
Yeah, I was not expecting that answer at all. Because most people are into like
It's,
the early stuff. Or
Yeah, it's all Jailhouse Rock and Love Me Tender and
Yeah,
Hound Dog. That's the Elvis everybody knows. But yeah, I like those last few years.
well, that's really cool. I like that whole
For some reason.
the Jungle Room sessions is pretty great. I mean, there's some really cool stuff on there. I think my favorite studio album is Elvis's Back, which he put out right after he got out of the army. It was his first album, and it's just really good. It has some blues stuff on there. There's this whole weird period in music that seems to get lost, which is the 60s, but before the Beatles, from like 60 to 63, because after the Beatles.
Yeah.
And there's just some really cool stuff in there, like Reconsider Baby, which you might not even necessarily know that song, but it's one of his best blues songs.
I haven't. I don't know.
Oh, it's good. It's really good.
Oh, okay.
But from that same period, or It's Now or Never, and Are You Lonesome Tonight, and some of the big ballads and stuff.
Like just looking at the list here, Raised on Rock, Good Times, Promised Land, Today, Moody Blue. That last run of studio albums. I don't know, especially stuff like Way Down.
Way Down's
just,
cool. Yeah.
Just the funk on Way Down. Come on.
Now that's a term.
How good is that?
Have you ever heard a song called If You Talk in Your Sleep? It's from that era. It might be on.
I think I've heard a live version of that. Unless
It
I'm
might be on the
mistaken.
Promised Land album. If you like that sort of funky Elvis, which nobody ever even acknowledges exists, it seems like. But If You Talk in Your Sleep is great. It sounds like it could be in the movie Shaft or something. It's a really cool, funky 70s song.
Oh, we'll get to that then.
Oh, it's great.
We've got to
Yeah.
do that. We've got to do that.
That whole...
I mean, Little Darlin' was on there. That's great too.
You think? I'm not...
I do.
Really?
Like, see, this is why this show's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I feel like even Elvis was...
I'll be pulling out all this stuff, and you'll be like, "What?"
Well, I feel like even Elvis was making fun of that song as he was singing it, because he only did that live. And I remember at the end of it, he came out and he said, if you'll buy that, you'll buy anything. And then he quoted a few lines from the lyrics of that song. I mean, it's okay. I knew it, again, growing up, because my dad would play lots of 50s music, so I knew the original by the Diamonds.
Yeah.
It's an old Canadian group called the Diamonds, I think. I might be wrong.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, you might be thinking of Pledging My Love, maybe? That's on Moody Blue, too, I think. That one reminds me
I don't know.
of the Beatles song, Oh, Darling, from Abbey Road. I don't know if you know.
Ah,
It's got that similar...
Is that the one with Paul McCartney just like screaming his
in
head
fact,
off?
I think he said he sang the entire song lying flat on his back. But yeah, it's that, oh, darling, if you leave me. That one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
You are right. It is the Diamonds.
Oh, cool.
There we go.
Yeah, Pledging My Love is another old song. I can't remember who sang. Oh, Johnny Ace, a guy who killed himself, I think, playing Russian roulette, was the original singer of that.
Ooh.
I'm pulling out all these facts that I have no idea if they're right. I mean, I got lucky with the Diamonds, but I think I'm right about Johnny Ace.
Yeah. Well, this is the best thing. Hopefully, people are listening, and they're going to be like, "No, you dummy! It's not
Right.
that. It's this." So I'm more than happy to be corrected because we want to be
sure.
right. We don't want to be putting out wrong
Right,
things.
we're not experts. It's just we both like Elvis. This is a great.
Oh yeah, let's say that from the start. We're not experts. We're not
Not at
claiming
all.
to be.
Not at all.
We're going to get things wrong. That's okay. We can admit that. That's perfectly fine.
Yep, and you're more than welcome to correct us.
There's a lot of people these days who cannot admit they're wrong, but that is not me, and I don't
Yep,
think
it
it's
is
you
definitely
either.
not.
Good. So when we actually review something, we will be a lot more prepared than this because this is just an introduction of
Exactly.
rambling. When we talk about an album or a live show, trust me, we will do some research and listen to it a lot, and we will know things. But again, we could still get something wrong. The internet has been proven to be wrong before, which is where I'm probably going to get most of my information from.
Well, I've got a shelf of Elvis books. Actually, I've got more than one shelf of Elvis books. So I might be able to go to someplace better than the internet for some facts.
Oh, you'll be going
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah, I've got a ridiculous amount of Elvis books.
Well, I think this is
Me
going to
too.
be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So that's what it's going to be. We're going to talk about Elvis because we want to talk about Elvis.
Yep.
Simple as that. And you said you've been wanting to do this for a long time, but you just
Yeah,
never got to
I
it.
really have.
And then I said, well, let's do it. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Let's do it today.
He said that at 3 a.m. my time.
And you're like, no, I've got to go to sleep. We'll do
Right.
it tomorrow.
But now this is cool. I definitely have been wanting to do this for well over a year. I've got a whole notebook where I'm like made little notes about what kind of podcast I would do. And I was going to do a YouTube channel I thought would be cool where I just talked about Elvis movies. But no, I would do nothing but procrastinate if it weren't for you actually getting me moving. So I appreciate it.
Just do it. Just
Yeah,
do it.
and
What are
you've
you
got
waiting for?
experience with podcasting. And like I said, I just plugged my microphone in today.
What else do we have to say in this first episode?
Yeah, mostly.
You know, one.
Oh, I was just going
You
to emphasize a call for suggestions because I don't really have anything. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think this is
Yeah.
going to be good because I have got lots of CDs and I've got an even bigger hard drive with just loads of Elvis on there. And I haven't listened to a lot of it for some time. So I'm very happy to be jumping back into Elvis world.
Yeah,
It's going to be good.
me too.
I'm
Same
excited.
here. I haven't really listened to Elvis lately. I go through phases where it's all I listen to. And yeah, I haven't really listened lately. So it'll be really cool once we like pick something to focus on to just delve really deeply into that. Yeah, this should be very cool.
I like listening to just pick any live show and just putting that on because to me it's just like listening to a live Elvis show. I mean, watching it's great too,
Right.
but I mostly listen. It just feels so comfortable to me.
Yeah.
It's like a warm glove or something. Like I know almost
Yeah.
everything that's coming, and I've probably heard it 100 times before. And it's predictable, but
That
in a
is sort
great
of how
way.
I feel about like old Star Trek episodes.
But, just listening to a live show, you know what's coming. There's going to be CC Rider. There's going to be I Got a Woman. There's going to be, Love Me
Right.
Tender. There's going to be
Have you
Teddy Bear, Don't Be Cruel. There's going to be You Gave Me a Mountain. There's going to be Poke Salad
Yeah.
Annie. There's going to be Hurt.
Have you listened to many
American
Elvis
Trilogy. American Trilogy. Oh, how good is it? I just
Yeah.
love listening to these shows.
I wanted to ask if you had listened to many Elvis or any Elvis bootleg concert
I have
recordings.
many.
Ah, okay. So, because you were talking about how the shows are fairly predictable, and I was wondering if you had heard that one from, God, I think it's August of 1974. It's a very weird concert. It's like a real anomaly in all of his concerts, I think.
Well, put it on the list. It's on the list.
Yeah, it was
We'll get to
also,
that.
I think it was the only show he ever opened with Big Boss Man. It doesn't open with
Oh, wow. There you go.
CC Rider. I don't even think he does the
Or
2001.
Tiger Man.
Yeah, or Mystery
Oh,
Train.
wow. Really? Straight into
Big Boss
Wow.
Man. Yeah. A song that he doesn't even do live very often. I mean, he did it a few
Yeah,
times.
that's another thing we should look at is, there are some songs he literally performed once or twice or
Yeah,
3 times.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, like even though they could have sounded great, he's just like, no, that's not happening.
yeah. Well, he did that with In the Ghetto, but he only did
Yep.
it. I mean, he was done with it by 1973, and it came out in, I think, 69.
Yep, and they're just gone. And then there's other songs which stayed in the set list for forever.
Yeah. Oh, he had to be so sick of singing Hound Dog by 1977.
You got to give the people what they want.
Yeah. Although
They're buying the tickets.
he would just rush through that.
Oh yeah, it was super quick and it was over in like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like, there you go. You got what you came for. Now back to what I want to do.
And then what Teddy Bear and Don't Be Cruel were usually stuck together.
Teddy Bear, Don't Be Cruel. Even Love Me Tender, he'd screw around with that all the time.
Yeah, he barely sang any of that.
There's some amazing versions of that with him just being hilarious. So yeah, can't wait to talk about them too.
Yeah, well, yeah, he spends most of the time during that song kissing women in the... God, can you imagine? Yeah. That's it.
And handing out towels.
Yeah.
God, imagine that.
Every Elvis concert would be a super spreader event.
Super spreader.
Absolutely.
Every single time. Well, who was the guy who handed him the towels? Was that Joe?
Joe Esposito? No, I think it was Charlie Hodge.
Charlie?
Yeah.
It was Charlie.
Yeah, I think that's the guy.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of videos where he's doing the towel thing and the other guy's just there, and every time one goes out, he hands him another one, puts it around his neck, pulls it off, here's your sweaty towel. It's just amazing to watch, things like that happen.
Yeah.
So there we go. Is that it? Are we done? Is that the first episode?
I think it could be.
Have we given people enough? Is that enough incentive to make you want to listen to us talk, review an album? We'll see. We'll see how many people come back for the next episode.
Yeah.
We'll see the numbers. We'll know.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Even if there's 100 people, that's okay.
Yeah, that would be...
Because we're not doing this because we want to get 1 million listeners. We're doing this because we want to talk about Elvis. We probably should have said this earlier. Why do you like Elvis? It's probably his voice. That's probably the number one thing I like about Elvis. It was just mind-blowing. I love people with just an amazing voice. Elvis had an amazing voice. Prince had an amazing voice. John Farnham from Australia has an unbelievably amazing voice. And they're one of the three biggest singers that I just love. And for that reason, there's lots of other great aspects to what they do, but the voice is probably the biggest thing for me. His voice was just so rich, and he didn't have a massive range, but what he did with what he had was just phenomenal, and it just got richer and better as he got older.
Yeah. Is there any particular? Well, you mentioned Polk Salad Annie already, but is there any particular song that you're just floors you every time you hear it? Like an Elvis song, obviously.
Voice-wise, I said, I haven't listened to a lot of Elvis lately, but I mean, You Gave Me a Mountain's almost always good. Yeah. Some versions of Hurt can be unbelievable. An American Trilogy, I mean, that's just great anyway. But, I'm sure there's 1 million songs I'm forgetting right now.
Well, I think If I Can Dream is the one I was thinking about.
Do you know what? You've already hinted that you love that.
Oh, it's amazing.
I don't know if I love it as much as you.
Really? Okay.
But we'll get to that.
See, that's...
and why.
Right.
See, there's a teaser. This is why you need to keep listening.
Right. But yeah, that song, there's only a few instances of pieces of music, like Nina Simone has a song called Wild as the Wind. In fact, Bowie does a cover of it. Have you ever heard that? Nina Simone, Wild as the Wind?
I don't think I have.
It's like, I can't listen to it without just getting chills at first and then just blown away by the end of it. And to me, there's once in a while when you see a musician, somebody like Prince or Elvis, or somebody who's just really in the zone, and they're soloing or they're singing or whatever, and it's just like, that's just coming from somewhere beyond. Else. This guy is channeling this. This is not just him. And that's how I feel whenever I watch, not just listen to it, but especially when I watch the performance at the end of the 68 special, when Elvis is just like swinging his arm kind of uncontrollably with the song. It's like when Prince is doing that solo, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, the one that everybody's crazy about. There's probably a lot of examples with Prince, though, because anytime he would solo, it was beyond. But yeah, there's just some performances that it's like, this guy's tapped into something. I think
that If I Can Dream at the end of that special I think it's a lot more iconic in America, and it's just in people's brains. And I'm not sure that's the case outside of America.
I'm not sure it's the case inside of America, really. I mean, I love it.
I've seen so many TV specials, like American TV specials about music or the history of music or whatever, greatest moments, whatever they are.
I think
that is included a lot of the time.
I think, well, it's because Elvis didn't do a lot of songs with great lyrical content. I mean, that's...
Oh, come on, Teddy Bear. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Elvis's version has more lyrical content than Prince's cover version, that's for sure. Prince just didn't bother to learn the words to Jailhouse Rock or Teddy Bear when he covered them.
No, he just sang about Michael B. Whatever. Yeah. It's fine. I think I watched that special, because that's at the end of the special, right? And I think just after the energy of the actual special, it's just sort of like a step down for me.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different vibe to the rest of it. And it just never sort of grabbed me as much as the main part of it did.
Yeah. Well, that's another song. You would think he would have done that again. I don't think he ever performed that live again that I can think of.
I'm sure someone will correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, I keep thinking there's one. There's one other version.
Once or twice. There's so many shows. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like Prince. There's like literally hundreds and thousands of shows.
Yeah. Actually, that's something.
We could do this show for the next 50 years if I live that long.
Right.
We're not going to run out of things to talk about. There's so many. There's so much.
Yeah. Yeah, there really, really is. I mean, even in the 60s, I mean, he was putting out like 3 albums a year, which is hard to imagine now. But the Beatles were putting him out almost at a similar pace, right? Close to it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just very different back then. I mean,
prolific.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's hard to think of Elvis as prolific.
There's always the argument of quality versus quantity as well.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So there we go. So let's wrap this up. That's long enough. Hopefully you come back for another episode.
Yes,
come back. It'll be good.
Yep. Next time we'll have a focused topic to focus on.
And if you want to suggest an album or a live show, let's go. Bring it on.
Yeah. Oh, we should set up an Elvis Reviews Gmail or something.
Send us an email at elvisreviewspodcast@gmail.com. That's what it is.
Great. Well, cool.
So that's it. We've probably got some music coming right now. Fading out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has left the building. Thank you and good night. We'd like to remind you that for a short while following today's concert, all the Elvis Super Souvenir concession stand will be open for just a little while. So it'll be a good time before you leave this afternoon to get an Elvis Super Souvenir. We thank you for coming. Be careful driving home. Good afternoon.